You can't remember a day when you weren't abused by him, but then he took it further, and you chillingly describe at about sort of 5 years old, one night when the door opened and he came in with a completely different intent.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you feel as a small child then? What did he do?
I just felt fear, and you could never answer back to him or stand up to him. You daren't. You just knew. I mean, he had us conditioned at that stage, you know. Of course, I didn't see anything. I didn't know any different. He was the boss. The rest of the world was outside, and he would say, like, "This is your world now. If you lose me, you're going to be locked up in an institution, and the keys will be thrown away." So that's how we lived our life. We just did what we were told.
And this continued for many, many years then, Helen?
Yeah, right up till I had the baby. And then twice after I came home with the baby, until I got out.
And he said to you that you couldn't possibly get pregnant because you can't get pregnant from your father.
Yeah, and I believed that. And it was such a shock to me. I couldn't, it was such a lie. And I just couldn't. I completely shut down when I found out.
And how old were you when you did get pregnant?
14.
And you had no clue what was going on?
No. I just got very sick around Christmas. I couldn't look at lights. Every time I stood up, I'd faint. I just got really, really ill. And my size hadn't changed. I was very, very small, but just moving in my tummy, and I just didn't know what was going on. So I said it to him. And he just shouted at me and said, "Why didn't you take precautions?" And I don't know what he was talking about. And then he just started, you know, taking me on trips away to here and Wales, Acton, all these places. And he was trying to get an abortion. I didn't realise that at the time. But sure, I was too far gone. I was too pregnant at that stage.
And social services had been coming and going.
Always, they were always part of our lives. Yeah, I never remember them not being there.
And during your pregnancy, they were knocking on the door as well, wanting to see you, wanting to speak to you, but your father kept saying, no, she's asleep. She's
he'd
not.
say crazy things to them. He'd say, "I've buried her in the garden." He'd make me hide up in the fields, and he'd tell them crazy stuff.
But they kept on wanting to try and meet with you, and at one point arrived at your home with a doctor, and there were two police officers.
Yeah.
And what happened at that point then? That was a bit of a turning point for you then.
The doctor examined me, and he said, "When was your last period?" And I said, "I don't know." I was mortified because he was standing there. They allowed him in the room. And of course, I can't speak when he's around, you know. And they said, you need to go to hospital. You're at least 6-7 months pregnant.
And what on earth must have been going through your mind then,
I just went into complete shock, I think. I think whatever little voice I had, I just shut down. I just no longer, I just went complete shock. I couldn't believe it.
Well, little Sarah arrived. As you say, you know, she pride and joy, so thrilled that she was there.
Yeah.
And for a time in a mother and baby home. But eventually you had to go back, and there was one night where there was an enormous row, and you'd gone out with your sister and come back again. He'd locked you out.
Yeah.
And then when you finally went in, you saw him with the baby.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point.
Yeah.
What did you see?
Her nappy was open. He was rubbing his hands together, and he was acting really guilty and stumbling over words. I was like, "What are you doing?" And my heart sank, and he couldn't answer. And he just walked out of the room, and I just knew then I had to get out of there. Like, I saw nothing, obviously, but something didn't feel right, and I thought, oh my God, could this really happen to a little baby? I just got out of there.